It's the Rumble. This is Leggerday, proudly reporting for Capital Cities ABS. This is gonna be a day to remember. It's the Rumble. 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 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, go, go! It's the Rumble. It's the Rumble. It's the Rumble. It's the Rumble. You can see the beautiful city from one side of the boat and the open sea on the other. I don't know about you, but that wild blue horizon calls to me sometimes. But I can't go. There's too much action and excitement right here at home.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another dev stream with Iron Galaxy. Today I have a few new folks with me. We'll introduce them in just a second, but something I forgot to do last week, which I should have done, was put out a huge thank you to everyone that's made so much cool community fan art, along with, I'm sure, a song that you've been listening to the past couple minutes, Atsuover's remix. Super dope. So thankful that you all made all this cool stuff. Thank you to you all for making this really cool fan art. But really quick, let's go ahead and move on to introductions. So first up, I'm Keenan. I'm the community manager here at Iron Galaxy for Rumbleverse. You guys know me. Let's pass it over to Mike Metz, someone new to the stream.
Hello, I'm Michael Metz. I'm the audio manager at Iron Galaxy.
Cool. And then on to Ramon. Oh, I'm not sure.
Muted.
There you go.
That old thing. Yeah, I'm Ramon, technical director at Rumbleverse. I told you I was going to give you a hard time. Turns out it's at my own embarrassment. But yes, technical director here.
Cool. And then familiar face to the stream, Adam.
Hi, it's me, Adam, the lead designer of Rumbleverse.
Cool. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Before we start today, I'd like to underline our intentions for today's dev streams and the ones for the rest of the month. We'll be pulling back the curtains and showing a bit of the magic that goes into creating a game. And with that being said, let's try to be respectful of that and, celebrate all the cool stuff that Iron Galaxy and the team has worked so hard on making Rumbleverse. So appreciate that respect and try to keep comments related to that in the chat, please. Thank you. All right, now first up, I'd like to pass it over to Michael Metz as we talk over audio.
I think so go ahead.
First up, we've got some videos to show. Let's transition to the first one, and then feel free to share or explain what we're seeing here.
Yeah, hopefully there's like audio too coming through. There's the a music track that plays right there, which I just kind of wanted to point out because we made it first off for the season 2 front end, but then we kind of ended up going in a different direction. And our composer created the track. His name is Yusu Kim, and he did an awesome job. And it's like a super cool track. And I just kind of wanted to highlight that it was actually one of our ones that we made for the game that just kind of got thrown into the actual environment as opposed to the front end, because just like we had a direction change and stuff, but it's just like a super awesome track, and in its own right, it's a super fun jam to go listen to.
For sure, yeah. There's a handful of different like original pieces that have been in the game, along with other cool stuff that you've pulled for different places in the environment. I did see a notice in chat that Adam was a little quiet on mic, so just double check there.
Speaking of audio, do we need to do a mic check on me?
How's that sound, everyone? We're looking
Mic
at the
check, 1,
chat.
2. Mic check 1, 2. Using my outdoor voice.
Still low.
Oh no. Well,
we will continue looking into that, but luckily we've got the audio professional handling this section. But yeah, let's move on to the next video, which kind of goes over like the sounds around our consumables.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight those a little bit. They're super fun, obviously, because they like to use like animal sounds, and animal sounds are always funny. The musicals, there's like a music track on there that's also kind of like was a pretty fun music track to make. I don't know, this is probably like an old reference that most people don't even remember, but when we made it, well, one, it was kind of like a jazzercise track, so we kind of like had that in mind, and then two, like there was this old SNL skit, like that go, "It's time on Sprockets when we dance," and like that's kind of like the voice that I used to do the the musicals milk, and just trying to I don't know, for some reason that was like in my head when I created that, so I always thought that was pretty fun to work on.
I still like that some people say moosicles and some people say moosels.
Moosels, yeah, that's always been a big debate.
Yeah, these are my musicles.
Yeah.
Seeing a really nice comment in the chat from Galid. The sound design in the game was very well done.
Oh, thank you very much.
Shout out that dude right here.
And also we did some outsourcing too with a company called Hexany Audio, and they did a wonderful job. They did a lot of the ambient work and some of the special moves, and they really helped the game shine as well. They did an awesome job.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out to them. Cool. Next up, one of my favorite audio bits in the game, especially when it's first introduced. I'm like, what are we listening to? Starfish. Yeah,
this is actually Adam's idea. He came up with this and then kind of said, why don't you go ahead and execute on it? And, I did. It's actually my own voice of just, saying Starfish with some effects on it and stuff like that. And it was one of those things that as soon as we put it in the game, everyone was like, loving it and just like cracking up and thought it was awesome. And given any type of personality to like a weapon or an object in the game, always just like helps a ton and makes people happy. So it was super cool.
Yeah, there was a review meeting when this first came out. I could not stop laughing. I did not know what was being said, but it was.
Did that come from someplace, Adam, or is that something you just came up in your head?
Man. We were just in a play test when the Starfish had first come online, and I forget who said it first. Maybe it was me. I don't know. But we thought it would be funny if they kind of just yelled Starfish or something. It's like goodbye when they burrowed back into the earth. The Starfish are kind of a unique weapon, fictionally speaking, because they're a living creature, right? It's not a baseball bat that's going to crack and break on somebody's head. We didn't want to depict them dying necessarily. So when they ran out of durability, we wanted to do something else. And that kind of led to the idea of maybe they should talk to you. Wouldn't that be weird? And I don't know. It's fun to work on a game that's this zany because those kinds of ideas aren't immediately shoved off the table. They're kind of embraced, and we get to do really fun comedic things.
Yeah, audio is also super fun for comedy. I mean, like in lots of different ways, and you don't get to do that all the time in games. Sometimes, it's like sometimes you do very serious stuff or adventure or whatever. So to be able to do some comedy in a game is always a relief and super fun. And also comedy is like very challenging, but that's what's also makes it very cool as well.
Yeah, comedy for me, it comes from the unexpected. But how do you make something in a video game where it's the same every time still feel funny and unexpected? The 100th time, the 1000th time, right? That philosophy kind of goes all the way back to how we built the game. Like, it's not a game about like cinematic supers and dynamic team animations that are the same the 100th time, right? It's a game about it's more jazzy, right? It's very free flow. The things that happen to it are really silly and random, and you're very unlikely to see the same fantastic or goofy thing twice, in 100 hours of play. So the humor kind of comes out there as well. But how do you try to get that humor out of audio when, hey, it's gonna say Starfish every time? How do we keep that entertaining and not annoying? Do you have any notes on that, Michael?
I mean, there's just obviously it randomizes between multiple takes and stuff like that, so it doesn't sound quite the same every single time. But and like really, when you think about how it's used in the game, it's not something that you can like spam super easily. So it just kind of worked out well for that particular weapon. That it didn't get really annoying at all. I don't think so.
Oh yeah, I think there's like variety just within how it's displayed. I almost want to play the audio clip again just because I was talking over it in the beginning. But there's the different pronunciations of it, and then there's the one it's like starfish. It's just this really short one.
Yeah. I forget which. I think the starfish talking came before the Swolgles saying "swole." Is that right?
That is true, and so I think we'll show that clip next. But
Nice transition. Yeah.
The Swole Goals, like I don't know whose idea was it to create the actual characters, but when I saw them, I kind of just had that the same idea and took it and ran with that, where just trying to make a sound that sounded like seagulls, but them saying their name is like the swole, swole, swole.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Definitely like a fun little Easter egg on where I feel like once you first hear it, you're like, what did it just say?
I just love how they're super buff, and it's just funny all around.
Yeah.
Sure.
Before we go to the next slide, Chowhow in the chat, he worked on the engineering team on this game, wants to know where the sound for the clamshells came from. Why do they burp or fart?
Oh, it kind of came to me from like I think it's like the night at the museum where he's like gum gum, it's like you need some gum dum dum. I don't know if you remember that. It was like a big tall statue. It was like a big tall statue that made this like dumb, he just would say like I want gum dum dum, and like I just for some reason like that made me think of that, where it was like these clams are just kind of like ouch, just kind of larger thing or something, and then obviously fart humor is always kind of funny.
Yeah,
definitely,
if done tastefully.
It was very tasteful, I would say.
Did we play the Swolgles? I've been looking at my notes. Did we play that video yet?
I don't think we
I
did.
don't think so.
Yeah, let's take a listen and watch as you pass by them. And I feel like the details on the very buff Swolgles are almost easy to miss initially, but once you see them, they're unforgettable, and you can't not see that ripped abs next time you pass them.
That one was also kind of interesting to try to not make annoying, right? So like I had to like record myself do like a ton of different takes and then layer them in a way that it kind of randomized them a bit, so it would make sure that it was like refreshing and you just weren't hearing like the same loop kind of bit over and over again. So but yeah, turned out pretty good, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So next up, let's talk about Yusu's music, some front end music.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about how like the music came about. So Yusu is a guy from Chicago. He's a composer, and so I came on the project. I think there was maybe like a little bit less than 2 years of development left before we were about to probably ship. And at that time, there wasn't really a consensus of yet what the music was going to be. It was kind of some ideas were thrown around a little bit here and there. But there wasn't really like, a firm like, oh, it's got to be this or that. So it was kind of like, part of like my job to figure out what is that going to be, and working with, other people on the team to kind of figure out where we would land with that. And at first, like I didn't, quite understand the whole details of the project, or like, I didn't, was still new and didn't wrap my head around it. So I was like kind of like pitching some ideas of like some like trap and maybe some like, heavy guitar stuff or whatever. But then I think we kind of realized that like one of the things about Graphical City is that they're not super advanced in tech wise yet, right? So like having kind of some like more modern music didn't really quite fit the the feel of the game and stuff. So we kind of thought like there's no like smartphones or stuff like that inside the Graphical City world. So I think we thought the music might need to match that as well. So then we kind of like landed on like, late 90s ish hip hop. And then I think, with that, I kind of like kept doing some research, and then also realized that there should be kind of some like funk in there. And then we like knew that we wanted like big fat beats and brassy upfront horns. And so we kind of landed on that. And, that's also like a difficult genre for video games in terms of like hiring a composer to do that, because usually when you're dealing with music like that, it's like licensed, right? Like in GTA, like there's like all sorts of like, you know, actual known stars that you're getting music from, right? And we knew that we didn't really, you know, want that, and we just wanted to have our own branding. But you know, then there's tons of composers out there that I've worked with in the past that do like, you know, big orchestral stuff, or even like, you know, driving hybrid rock orchestral, any types of stuff. But there's not a ton out there that we're doing, you know, this like hip hop type of style that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So basically what I ended up doing was I went onto the site that we kind of use sometimes. It's called Audio Jungle. And they kind of have like recorded music that you can purchase there for various reasons, for advertising and for whatever. And I just kind of kept searching and combing through tracks to see if I could find one that I liked. And then I did find one. I was like, well, shoot, let me just contact the guy that made this track and see if he's available to do original music. And then, so I'd never met him before, and it turned out he was from Chicago, which was pretty cool.
Perfect.
And
Love
yeah,
it.
and so just reached out to him and, you know, kind of like laid down what we were looking for. And then, yeah, I mean, he just nailed it. And like, you know, I think it's one of the things I'm like super proud of in the game. I think it really gives the game a great identity. We just really landed like perfect, you know, like I don't know if there's anything better that we could have done with that. I mean, especially season 2 song. I mean, that just slaps. It's so awesome.
For
It's
sure.
like fun to listen to on your own.
I think you point out something that's really cool too, and I'm really glad we got to like maintain the relationship with Yusu, because the season 1 theme was also by him, right?
Yes. Yep. And all the launch music and then the final ring music. Yep.
Right. So those 3 spaces in the game have like consistently been him across both seasons. So it's awesome that we can like maintain the consistency with him. But then also I think when you listen to both themes in during both seasons, you can hear like the parallels between them too.
Yeah, yep, for sure. And you know, like even like the season 2, we were like, how can we like even make this even better? And you know, it was even like a little bit of like some trial and error. And you know, like he would like write some stuff, and then I would like give him a bunch of detailed feedback on like my thoughts, and you know, I even like handing him some like scratch samples that I thought were cool, and then but he just like the amount of detail in the tracks are insane. Like there's like all these crazy voice samples that if you know if you're not even paying attention, you might not hear it, but I've been able to like, you know, obviously have the tracks broken out and hear all the different pieces of it, and it's just wild. He just did such a great job. And he also is in a band in Chicago. I think he goes by the moniker Good Son, and which is on Spotify. So if you're into like some eclectic pop music, I'd go check that out. It's also really good. I think he had done film and television stuff before, but he'd never done video games before. So this was his first foray into video game music, and like I said, he pretty much nailed it.
That's dope.
The process is really interesting too, to like just have a bunch of people come at you and be like, it's hip hop and it's funk and it's you know, tropical, and you know, all these different things that you have to kind of condense into some mood. But I think the part of it that stands out in my memory the most is, you know, after you go into the dark and find a bunch of things that you think might fit, what Michael would do is he would take a you know, video of the game of someone playing the game with just the sound effects on. We had placeholder music and stuff in there. It wasn't anything we were ever planning to keep. And he would overlay the stuff he found and, you know, cut it up and paste it the way that he would if it was actually in the game, and just make a quick video out of it. And then, you know, paste a dozen of those to the group and be like, hey, what fits? And then when you open those videos and you're not just like listening to a track with, you know, a blank monitor or a picture of the game, the music is playing over the game the way that it would. It's like amazing how fast your brain just goes, nope, that's not it. Or, yep, that's close, or that's it. Right. It's a really neat process. And it's pretty wild how connected music is to everything that we kind of sense as, you know, art consumers. Right. And when all those things kind of click together, it feels really special.
The amount of streams I've hopped in where I hear bum bum ba ba. You just hear like whoever's playing at the time just start humming it. Like,
Yep.
I'm sure I'm not alone in doing that, and I'm affirmed by people in stream and chat. Tell me if you do the same thing or not.
Sure.
I've caught my wife humming it. So, and it's like, because we're all working from home, or we were, especially a lot during dev, and yeah, it played a lot.
For
Yeah.
sure. So let's. I want to give a listen to the track in the background, maybe as I do one more question on music. But obviously, there's like a lot of spaces like in the environment where like the one place that's popping in my mind right now is like you go to that construction site and you hear the bam, out, bum, bum, and you can kind of like take away what you're hearing in that environment. It's like, oh yeah, that fits to that individual environment, and then you go to different places. It's like, oh, this vibe matches here, this vibe matches here. Um, Mike, how do you, I guess, land on what you're gonna choose to put in those different areas?
Yeah, I think, like some of it is just random, but there's definitely spots like the Capital City, like what's the main building called? Like the
Graphical building.
Capitol building, like that to me felt like it should be like presidential and be, something that seems kind of like political or whatever. And so there's kind of like this, like almost like a American, type of political song playing in that area. And then like the construction one, again, just like imagining like, oh, this is like some guys on the job or, listening to some classic rock. Or like if you go into the stadium inside there's like kind of like these big like stadium sounds, and of course like I would try to make sure that like the reverb and stuff would match the environment. So like if you go inside the lava stadium or whatever, it's like it makes you feel like you're inside of the stadium and it's kind of like blown out a little bit and sounds like a big stadium rock, or if you're going to like a sports venue or whatever. But yeah, I mean that's primarily like, I think another one that I love is the I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the garden area, like where the statues are. And if you go in there, there's this kind of like real relaxing, like nice, chill, like ambient style music and stuff. So yeah, so like the locations just kind of dictated like what I was gonna try to go for, and stylistically mostly.
For sure, thanks. All right, now a very proficient voice you hear in the game. Let's transition to the next photo. Skip Leggerday. A huge contribution to the game. Tell me about who the voice is behind Skip Leggerday, and how we, I guess, landed on his persona, and how he contributes to the game.
Yeah, well, the actor is Dave Fenoy, and he's been in lots of other games before. And we actually went through a company that does a lot of voiceover stuff for games called Blindlight, and they were awesome, and they got us like a bunch of different auditions and stuff. And Dave just kind of quickly rose to the top of like, didn't take us like very long. We were like, oh, this sounds perfect. And we knew we wanted like an announcer, but obviously we didn't want it to be like something over the top or super annoying. I think like one thing that was funny is that like when I first started on the project, they had some like placeholder VO in there, and I think it was like they're supposed to be like the mayor or something, but it was just like this person that was very like mean to you.
Yeah, I can touch on that. Yeah, our original take on the announcer was going to be the mayor of the city, who was also the champion, and that was how you became the mayor, was to become the champion. And that style of announcer was very demeaning. So she was always telling you weren't good enough, you needed to step it up, you'd never beat her. And we got a really talented voice actor to do that as well, but it just ended up making players feel like they weren't being encouraged when they were having a hard time winning the game. It's a game where 39 people lose, right? So you had this announcer telling you that you were scum and that you couldn't do it, and it just didn't really work out.
That's hilarious, though.
Yeah, so we pivoted, and before Michael continues on the Skip Leggerday stuff, I was also like, one of my favorite games of all time is Super Monday Night Combat, which has a very Skip Leggerday style announcer duo in it. And they tell the same jokes over and over and over again. And it's always funny. And I always wanted to see if we could capture something like that, where the voices were just so charming and so fun that maybe the same joke the thousandth time is still fun to hear. And I think maybe we did, which I'm pretty proud of as well. But go on, Michael. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's see what else I had to say about that.
That brings me to a good question. Like, what would you say about Dave or Skip's voice? Though you may hear, a similar voice line you heard 2 or 3 matches ago. What about it is, I guess, so appealing where like you laugh the 40th, 50th time?
Well, I mean, he definitely is like, his voice is so awesome and smooth and just like, very positive and happy and jovial, right? So I think it's like one thing is just like happens to have a great voice that's not grating. And also like something to point out too is we had a writer on the team named Jordan Morris, and he was someone that we contracted out. He's from LA. He's kind of a comedian and writer. And he was kind of was a lot of the joke writers for the stuff, and he did a great job to match the tone of the game and to write stuff for Dave to record that really worked well with the game and was like pretty funny, and there's all sorts of like dumb little jokes in there that are really great.
I feel like the ridiculousness in how they could coexist in just like the normalness of what is within Rumbleverse with his voice lines is like such a nice part of Dave's delivery in those lines.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For sure. He's like there's a genuineness to everything he's doing when he's playing the character. He doesn't, he's playing a cartoony character saying stupid things over a cartoony world, but somehow when he says, how did you get here? I don't know how I got here. You're like, I kind of feel that he's a little unsettled by all of this, right? And it comes through. All the little nuances come through.
Yeah, and he was, of course, just like such a pro to direct. I mean, he made my job so easy. Like you'd go in those sessions and, you almost have to say nothing because he just had the character down, would nail the line, and you'd just move on to the next line. And it was just like, every session was a piece of cake.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great to work with such professional people that make you look really good,
Yeah, shout out to Dave.
Yeah, big time.
Cool. And now on to, we got a few videos, or actually an image first, excuse me, where we're going to pass it over a little bit to Ramon or Adam or whoever wants to
I'll
contribute.
talk about this image since I hastily threw it together.
Yeah. Go for it. Describe how this game even works.
Yeah, I'm going to let Ramon talk about most of this stuff, but as many of you know, if you're a long-time fighting game or combat game player, combat games online have been a challenge. And this image is trying to describe to you why it's so challenging to, sell a server client type experience like this where you're doing melee hits on people, right? So the big goals of the game were we wanted to make sure that the hits connected and they felt impactful, right? Your fist wasn't going through people, and also you weren't like hitting thin air and then seeing somebody get hurt from that. And one of the challenges you experience when you're playing a server client type game is what you'll see in the image here is the characters in black are what the server sees. So whether you're chasing someone or they're chasing you, it's going to be the same. They're the same distance away on the server. And the server is the true game state. The server is what decides what happens to everyone all the time. But we don't want to give you a bunch of lag on your controls and make your input delay. We want the game to feel crispy and responsive. So you press jump, you jump immediately. You press attack, your attack starts to animate immediately. So it all feels predictable and nice, which means basically you're seeing the blue stuff. So you're kind of in the future a tiny bit. And your opponents are the red characters. They're in the past a tiny bit. Now, this is stretched out more than it would be. There would be much more overlapping in real life because we're talking about milliseconds here. But the idea here is that if you are chasing someone, you'll appear. You'll appear. You'll need to be closer to them. You'll think you'll need to be closer to them to hit them than you actually do have to be. And when someone's chasing you, it'll appear that they can hit you from farther away than you can hit them. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And one of those things we were trying to create a system for, so that we could kind of hide this, right, and make it feel like this wasn't really a factor. All of these things are realities that we're just trying to hide. So Ramon, take it away. Hopefully this helps some people wrap their head around.
No, I mean, I think mostly got it right. I think the important thing is, even if this isn't demonstrative of what you're seeing, everyone's is seeing something different. Everyone's internet's different.
Right.
So it's making a system to fake that as best as possible.
Yeah.
Like I think, so if you don't know, Adam and I, we've worked together now since Third Strike.
Mhm.
So like combat games have been what we like to do. And the rollback stuff, I saw someone mention rollback in the chat. There was a time, I think Boyce is in the chat, where he was like, how do we make this game? And I don't know if you remember, Adam. We were like, all right,
I remember.
It's not going to be a fighting game the way you think of it, but like you're going to get to each other, and then you're going to make like a rollback instance, and then you're going to fight in that rollback instance. And that is not the game we wanted to make.
No.
But we also couldn't go 40-player rollback. That is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So we ended up going through a ton of iterations, and the two things we most wanted to solve was, we wanted hits to be impactful. We didn't want the MMO style, like you swing through a body and then you do a little animation, but we wanted hit stop, and that's what we set on doing through a lot of iterations, but we got there in the end.
For sure.
I'm pretty
Definitely
happy with it.
easier to get there with strikes than it was with grapples as well, but a process for both for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of learnings before the game had even released, and then plenty of learnings thereafter too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna spoiling a little bit. We're gonna show some videos of kind of some of those iterations.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
let's go to the first if we're ready.
Yeah, Ramon and I have been doing these types of games for a long time, and Adam Boyce, asked each of us separately but individually, "Hey, do you think this can be done?" And we both said no. And we ended up getting a chance to try it, and I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish here.
So-
Ramon and Eric and
Yeah,
everyone on
shout
the-
outs to Eric. I saw he's in the
and-
chat as well.
yeah. Everybody just did incredible work. So what you're seeing in this video is an early video just experimenting with basic move replication. What is basic move replication, Ramon?
So we're using Unreal Engine, and this is kind of what you get out of the box. It's server authoritative movement. You have client moves first and sends its information over to the server. Server replicates that movement to all the other clients. So you're always seeing a ghost of everyone else, but you yourself, you see moving as you'd expect. I think you see there's some combat in this video too.
Oh yeah, we built some moves for this early stage. We also needed to explore, what the Unreal tools for the montages were going to allow us to do, and what kind of new features we would need to build for all of that. But like Ramon said, what you're seeing right here is very close to what you would get out of the box with Unreal 4. If you were to, tomorrow try to build an online melee game in Unreal and not try to do anything special with it, this is what it would look and feel like probably. You can see these characters don't make clean contact with each other. They're sliding all over the place. It's not great.
Yeah, so this video is now like 4 years old, so I might be misremembering, and Eric can call me out in the chat if I'm wrong, but I believe in this video we were actually using what would be closer to traditional hitboxes, which is like there's an overlap box. If a capsule's inside of it, that person's getting hit. But like you end up seeing, the problems with latency. We should actually talk about that too. There's like we've never played this game at a server in a local studio. Right. That was always intended. So if you don't know, Iron Galaxy has multiple studios. Adam works in Orlando. I work in Chicago. So that wasn't going to work anyways. But like we're not going to make this game to work with just a server next to you. That would have defeated the point. So we've always been connected to a server either in Virginia or in California, and that's how we did all the testing. But in this video, you start seeing crazy stuff. People.
Can we loop the video while we're chatting about it?
Yeah.
Cool. Keep going, Ruin. Sorry.
Yeah. But you'll see like random stuff, like people getting punched randomly, or you'll see someone swing and then they'll teleport to where they should have gotten punched.
We're on the next video. Whoops.
It says no.
Keep going though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I covered most of that stuff.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, if you weren't somebody who really knew what combat games were supposed to feel like and your ping was low, you'd be like, this is fine. And then, you add some artificial delay and get yourself up to 150 ping or 200 ping, and you're like, oh, this is really horrible. And, for those of us who kind of live and breathe this stuff, there's a level of kind of responsiveness we're looking for that isn't that hard to get, but it's the level of kind of action from the opponents when you make contact with them that we were not able to get without significant work from Ramon and Eric and the team of folks on the combat side, doing weird stuff with the online, all kinds of magic tricks to try and get this stuff to sync up and feel impactful. And then there's other layers on top of that, even outside of engineering. There are layers and layers of audio to make this stuff sound like it hurts, and VFX to make it look like it hurts. And then, of course, tons of animation work. That you're looking at our old Pillboy characters that we were prototyping with, and the animations these guys are running are what we call block-in animations. So these are like animations that really are only 3 or 4 poses, and we're just kind of interpolating between them. So they look pretty jerky, but they get the job done for prototyping.
Would you say, as the team was developing the game, you found what you wanted to feel out of gameplay, or did you have an idea, I guess, up front of what you wanted to feel, and then you iterated towards that?
It's
Go ahead.
It's funny because we actually I would say that we knew what we wanted from the start, but we kind of went into it with we're gonna have to figure out how to find a happy medium. And in fact, like there were iterations of the combat where here's an example. Luckily, you guys never got to play this, but there was a there's this thing in Unreal called corrections, which is very much like, hey, that shouldn't have happened. We're gonna correct it. It still happens in our game. It happens in every game. Like you can't beat the internet. And we thought, okay, well, let's fix that by all decisions are solved in 200 milliseconds, right? You can't change the server's mind is really what we want. And that made this game, which we thought was fun, we played it a ton, but you couldn't really be defensive, and you had to guess everything because you had to block 200 milliseconds before that punch would hit you. Right. And that was an early version of our combat system. And eventually we ended up, like we were happy, but we all knew we wanted more. And eventually we ended up with where we are now, which is we utilize hit stop in order to hide that correction. And we allow you to block very close to the last second.
Yes.
As slow as we can get it. And then you get corrected into whether you blocked or not. And I think if we missed that point, this game would not have been the same. It would have been a very different game.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, do you want to maybe chat more on the next video then?
Yeah, before we jump to it real quick, I just want to say, you were asking, do we know how we wanted the game to feel ahead of time? Ramon said it was kind of a middle ground.
Yeah.
The most games, the vast majority of games are built where you make the game fun and then you put it online. And we knew we were not going to be able to do that here. We knew the middle ground Ramon's talking about is that we needed to build the online to figure that out, because this is a problem we weren't happy with the solutions that existed for. We wanted to make our own solutions. We were going to have to build all of the gameplay around the limitations of those solutions and make sure that everything was a speed that made sense with those rules that we had made for ourselves. And everything basically comes from there. So middle ground is definitely true, but we had the unique opportunity to actually build the online first. It's like Ramon said, this game was online from day one. There was never an offline version of this. We never played this locally in the studio. It was always online. And being able to prove out network technology before proving we had a fun game was a really cool opportunity to have, and one we may not ever get again. So who knows? It was a really neat experience for sure.
Yeah, and to be clear, that middle ground kept shifting towards the more of what we wanted. Every time we got closer to okay, then we could do this game like this, and then we're like, but what if we tried this?
Push it a little farther.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see like a little glimpse of, I guess those steps forward in the next video then.
Yes. So this next video has got a couple little clips in it that kind of go through some of the versions of the game as it grew and got better. This old gray box level was hastily thrown together just to give us an idea of what it would feel like to have open world combat in a city, even if the combat wasn't good yet. And it did the job really well. So we've got all of our characters kind of jumping around here. We used to have wrestling rings around. We didn't want to disappoint people with the inability to bounce off the ropes, so we ended up removing them. But we used to have some of those around the city as well. You can see people are just kind of going through the ropes here.
Yeah, and you can see in this video, there's just corrections everywhere, right? Like
it looks messy.
Yeah.
But the good news is it felt messy too. The looks didn't betray what it actually felt like, and there was a lot of work that went into taking this to the next level and making the game you all know and love.
And I'm guessing like what didn't feel good, I guess initially, kind of taught how we wanted to approach, I guess, what we wanted to feel like next in the development process.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest. There were definitely some moments of like, oh, we can't fix this kind of deal. And a lot of conversations, Eric and I in front of a in front of a whiteboard, trying to figure out like how do we make this work. It's Eric, Isaac, and I, and you know, it was a lot, but you know, I'm very happy with where it turned out.
Is
I'm
there
glad we
like
were able
a
to get through those issues.
is there like a certain example that maybe comes to mind? It's like, oh, I'm so glad we overcame whatever that I guess
I mean,
trouble was.
I mean, I think the one that's easiest to talk about is probably the tracking system. For
Sure.
the longest time, we wanted to make hitboxes work. Hitboxes to work the way that we're used to hitboxes, the way they work in fighting games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was not working when everyone is at a different moment in time. And that's when we started coming up with the tracking system and eventually even the combat priority system and all that stuff like led to where we were and how combat feels. Yeah, those are again very proud.
Yeah, playing this game after tracking was added, but before priority was added was interesting. I think we're on the wrong video though. There's the next video should have kind of a step through the ages here.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go to the next one.
Another system that and it's not in the video, so I don't think I'm ruining anything. But another system that really came in and changed the game for us was clashing.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, we did not have that, and it was
What would
very
happen?
much. You could stuff someone, right?
Mhm.
You could beat their punches out uh, before it came out.
Yeah, this was before priority system.
Yeah, and
So
that yeah.
the problem, I still think we're on the wrong video. I don't see this one moving forward. The problem with priority, it kind of relates back to what we were talking about earlier, where you're seeing the ghost of everyone's past, right? You're seeing them slightly behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be situations where the way the game worked was the attack that hit first was the one that won. We're on the right video now. We'll talk about it in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
The attack that hit first was the one that won, which is how you would expect it to work in almost every game you've ever played. But the problem was that you could press attack, start to see it animate, then you see your opponents start to animate, and then they beat you, they animated second. But the truth was that they pressed it before you, because the server is inside. You just didn't see that yet. And that was basically unreconcilable for players. That was just such a feel bad thing. And the priority system was kind of born from that, knowing that the way that the game works, we had to hide that from you even better and make things a little bit looser so that if you were close enough, you would get that clash. All right, so we can talk about this video now, right? We've got
Yeah, it's like
old stuff you've been seeing looping, but then
Yeah.
it moves forward a little bit through the ages. You can see the world starting to get some color and some textures, but we still have our little gray pill boys here with their long arms. Starting to see some body slams in there as well. As we're starting to figure out how the grappling will work, some drop kicks. There's a muscle buster for you.
There
for
is.
people who wanted to see a muscle buster.
Yeah.
Now you can see our tracking is starting to work in this video. Basic 3-hit combo, a little choke slam, and then in this part of the video you're starting to see the Grapple City you guys actually know and love. There's some clips here of previous versions of Grapple City as well. We're gonna have some more clips of that for you on the next stream, but this went through the map went through a lot of iteration to figure it out. And I want to talk about that in the next stream, so I'm not going to harp on it here. Anything else you want to say about this video, Ramon?
No, I mean I think we covered it. The ones that are the grappling is grappling's kind of fake, right? Like we need grappling is one of those things where you need the animation on both characters to be at exactly the same spot. Now, obviously, that's not the server is doing something else entirely, but when you're being grappled, it's it has to be correct. I want to give a little shout out to the animation team.
Yeah.
We had so obviously all the grapples animating and sync between each other, but then the IK system that Ricardo wrote for how grapples getting together, that was super awesome. And it made it so that we can have grapples that had different on people with different body shapes, right? Alpha, or sorry, uh, you know the I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the characters right now,
The
but the
bigger, thinner,
different ones.
muscular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. I'm calling them by code names. That's
Those
my
weren't their
bad.
public names anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For
you
those that
actually.
don't know, IK stands for inverse kinematics, which means even less to you than IK means. When your characters are standing on a ramp, the reason that their feet touch the ground in the right spots on the ramp is because of the IK system. It's modifying the animation in a way
Yep.
to make sure that the character doesn't break any of its skeletal rules. So the knee isn't like folding or you know going through the character or stretching too far or whatever. But within reason, it's trying to do a natural thing with touching the ground. But those systems were also used in the grapples, so that the arm that is in the chokeslam pose could get reasonably close enough to where the neck is on 6 different opponent body types, and that's a really really neat achievement.
Right, and I imagine that even it's tweaked even a little bit with all the different like accessories in the game and how they lay over each other or not, depending on like
Yeah.
how bulky they are, but still making them all look good in a way where it looks good with all the accessories.
Yep.
Well, cool. So this was the final video we had for you all. A little bit of a deep dive on the stuff that Ramon and Adam gets to touch or have been working so diligently on a past handful of years. But now, move on to some quad smashers. Unless there's any additional things you guys wanted to talk about or mention, or
Were there any chat questions that we should grab before we play?
yeah, let's do that. I'll take a look at the chat and see if there's some stuff that's a good fit.
We'll also do questions while we're playing and stuff.
True.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. Well, let's pick a few, and then we'll move on to some gameplay. Are there any secret Easter eggs or things in the current version of the game that is yet to be found?
Yes, and you have about a week to find them. Good luck.
There you go. Who is the coolest member of the Rumbleverse development team? I'm gonna say it's Dantarian in the chat who is asking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking for a few more.
Oh, I see a question about the railing. That's an interesting one.
Oh yeah.
It'd probably be a more interesting one for the next stream since we'll talk more level design in there. But building the world is building the world is a collaboration between design and art. Design gray blocks the world out, for the gameplay that they want, and then art will come back in and they will make it beautiful and make adjustments to make it feel more natural. And fiction is involved as well, and trying to make sure that all of these locations we're building make sense and it looks like people could actually live there and navigate this place, and the businesses have funny names and storefronts that make sense for them. And then suddenly there's a fruit stand in front of one of the buildings that design didn't anticipate, and you get caught on it all the time. And through the evolution of building a world, you have all of these unexpected things. And one of the unexpected things was, because these characters are on rooftops all the time, we didn't want the rooftops to look so bare and flat. The art team wanted to put some railings up there, which makes sense because people don't want to fall off roofs. But unfortunately, it made long jumping off of those roofs feel absolutely terrible, just miserable. And the compromise we came up with was our level designer at the time, Sam Way, actually went and prototyped this breakable rail system, which was a huge pain in the ass to set up apparently, but works great because now we get the best of both worlds. We get these railings that make the buildings look the way that the art team wants them to look, and they don't get in the way of the movement of the characters anymore either. Plus, we get the unexpected added benefit of it looking awesome when you throw somebody through them. Yep. So very, very cool organic moment in game dev.
And it did not make me cry. It was
nice. And it did not make performance cry. So hooray.
I'm going to pass it to Metz here for the next question. How did you land, I guess, on the sound effects for Nice Shot or like the golf club vicious hit?
I'm trying to remember those. I know that I did those. I think it wasn't outsourced, but I think there's like cheering, right? We have
Yes.
like cheering and stuff. I think the vision there was like, wasn't there like some sort of like Wii golf game or something that we kind of
Yeah, Hot Shots Golf. Venue.
modeled a little after. So I think it was just like kind of going based off of that stuff or whatever. But I can't hear the sound in my head right now. I have to look it up. But,
Everybody's golf if you're in Japan.
yeah.
Okay, I see a question from a player named Tupperware. I have a question. When designing Grapple City, why did you add corner bounce pads on some buildings?
So
And why
fun fact, actually, and
Yeah.
Michael will confirm this, early versions of those corner bounce pads, their sound effect they made when you bounced on them actually said, screw Tupperware. And they were great. Like, people loved it. But legal shot it down, so we had to change it to a more generic bounce sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find one more before we move on to gameplay. This is an interesting one from Kazunya. What made you stick with the Hammer Fist combo as it is today? They were mentioning that they saw older visions on how the basic combat used to work before.
Yeah, basic combat went through a ton of iterations, trying to find the right mix of things so that you didn't feel helpless, but you also needed special moves to finish the job. And we'll talk about some other systems that used to exist on the next show as well, so definitely tune in for that. But the original version of the basic combo kind of ended in that spin kick that knocked people away. And at some point in development, we started to feel like the basic combat just needed a little bit more flavor. It was starting to feel a little bit too restrictive and too stale with the way the rest of the game was kind of evolving. And this actually happened pretty late towards launch. This probably would not have been in the game had we launched in February. That delay that we had actually allowed us to finish this up. But we decided to change to the Hammer Fist for the ender of the basic combo, because what we wanted was for the basic combo, the 3 hits, to be very easy to confirm and give you that knockdown without sending somebody flying. So it wasn't that easy to get somebody off of a roof with it. And that was the problem we were mainly having, was it was so easy to eject people off roofs with the basic combo that you didn't really need to try for it, right? So then we moved the ability to knock people off roofs to the new spin kick ender, which was the XY variant, the 1-2 variant. And that requires you to commit a little bit earlier. So if you want to get that wall splat, or if you want to get that roof knockoff, you have to make a decision earlier and put yourself at a little bit more risk. And then the back toss variant was a cool idea to be able to trade sides with people or set up a teammate, because we were starting to get team play going at that time in development as well. And we wanted more ways to set your teammate up. So a lot of those just kind of came out of the needs of, hey, the basic combat is knocking people off roofs too easily. And how do we add more risk to getting a knockoff or a wall splat? And then how do we set up teammates more often and better with the basic combat so that we can see more of that dynamic teamwork? And from there, after we decided what the functions would be, we decided which animations to try to make that would fit those functions. So the spin kick was able to be moved and saved to the 1-2, and we came up with the idea of a Hammer Fist for that quick knockdown, which ended up still feeling bad because people would not go off the roof, but they would be like laying on the roof like this with their feet here and the rest of their body hovering, which just looked terrible. Yeah. I know Isaac always hated that. And the compromise we ended up finding there was we would let people go off the roof, but then kind of like tech flip back to the wall and be able to grab it. So that ended up being where we landed on that. And then the back toss, obviously, wanted to set people up for a team combo. So that was a pretty natural one to find as well.
For sure. Well, cool. Thanks for that explanation. I think we're good to probably transition to some gameplay. And then as we're setting up, you're probably good to transition to our gameplay screen